Good morning, everyone. A few weeks ago, I was invited in a talk in a podcast, and the host, starts the podcast, welcomed me, and then he asked me, "Hey, Adam, welcome. Can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what do you do?" They looked at him and say, "You know what? I don't know." He looked at me like, "Are you okay?" It's like, yeah, I'm okay. And say like, "Do you know where you are?" It's like, "Yes, I know where I am. I'm here with the studio. I know who you are. But I don't know exactly what do I do." He looked at me and said, "Okay, either you have a midlife crisis or you don't have clear KPI." I looked at him and said, like, "First of all, I'm in my 30s, so please take this back. And I have clear KPI." But we start to talk about why this was a challenge for me, and the thing is, every week, every month, every year, technology change, the attack vector change, new attacks, new vulnerabilities, and I need to adapt with that, right? I need to change my strategies. I need to provide different solutions, and that's why, like, every week, every day, or every month, I try to ask myself this question. I challenge myself. What's really my priority this week? What's my priority today? What's my priority next month? And that's basically what we want to talk about today. I always like to start, anytime I teach this class, with this sentence, with this quote, like "No Man is Island" from John Donne. And because basically as a human being, we are interdependence. Our decisions based on others people's decision, right? Like we are not alone in that situation. The same thing also in cybersecurity. We are not alone as a defender. We are not just working on our security solution. Our solution really has to be based on the other side, which is the attacker, right? Or the adversary. And we need to know what's their strategies so we can adapt our strategies as well. And one of the things I have seen so many times with my consultant, with my client, sometimes the understanding the game and who was the players are really important. And sometimes we mix the players. Are we playing with the threat actor in our defense strategy, or are we playing with compliance as a player, right? When we know the real player, our strategies will be different. So to understand strategies and identify what is the best strategies, I like to apply game theory. And for anyone that doesn't know game theory, it's not really a game. It's a mathematical evaluation for strategic analysis. And I have been teaching this so many times, and every time people come to the class or the talk, they expect a game, and unfortunately, I don't have the game, so I get faces like this. And I know some people may have that face right now. But trust me, wait till the end, and that may change. So just to give you an overview, what I'm going to talk about today, it's a way of thinking. It's not a solution. It's not something, this is the only solution. It's a way that I would like to introduce you to challenge the way you are thinking, and also that way of thinking is adaptable, meaning you can apply it on a larger scale or a high level, on a strategic decision, on a budget, on a legal, or even on a technical in a SOC, where you decide whether what detection mechanism you want to apply, what's alert, what's you want to apply, if this is worth it or not. Do you understand the payoff, understand the strategies, and so on and so forth. So you can also start from a baseline, from a very manual process. You can do it by yourself, or you can go to an automation that automate this process and calculate for you faster, or the lower level, or like the higher level in this situation is like if you add machine learning or AI. I know people lots talk about AI. I feel like I have obligation to just say the word in any conversation, so this is mine, and I promise you I will not repeat it again. So, on the framework level, I'm just suggesting like we can have these 5 steps. threat intel, mapping, heat map, attack tree, and then we will be able to do the game modeling. So an example here, we start from the threat intel calculation. Let's say we are going to identify the top attack vectors or threat actors that impacting OT, and then we can identify their TTPs. And this is why I'm very, very grateful for MITRE TTPs, because this is the step that will allow us to apply game theory here. Because now I can identify the strategies of my player, right? If I don't identify the strategy of my player, how can I identify my strategies? How I can evaluate my strategies? So utilizing the framework of MITRE, we'll be able, okay, let's map all the TTPs for these threat actors, and then create a heat map. Basically, we will say, okay, if how many ABT are used this tactic. If from 1 to 2, let's give a green color, 3 to 4, orange, about more than 4 times red, and then we will end up like with a heat map like this, right? So this heat map can immediately give us like, okay, what are the top important TTPs that I need to defend against and build my defensive strategy, what's the medium and what's the low. So that's a very quick, simple way that we can apply to get a good heat map, a good some identify what's the player or the attacker strategies, and then we can evaluate our strategies against them. After that, attack tree. Creating an attack tree for your organization is really key. And if you have the resources, I really encourage to do it, because sometimes you can take this and apply it in your environment. And that's when you can answer the question, is this relevant to me? If this really TTP can really impact my environment, right? It could be a very important TTP, very common, very applied to your industry, but you don't have the technology that impact or get compromised. So that doesn't impact you. So if you have your attack tree, you can answer that question. And then at the end, you apply game theory, which you identify the attacker strategies, then you look for your strategies, and then you calculate the payoff, which will help you to define what is the best strategy. So this is the, I try to make it simple as much as I can, because I do believe that I want to provide a way of thinking, something simple that be applied. I don't want to like overwhelm with a lots of equation that's, you know, people stay like, nope, I'm not going to do that. So basically, our payoff here will be risk, and PA, basically the probability of the incident happen. PS/A, or the partially probability giving an incident happen and it's successfully executed. That's also another important factor to include. Not every threat that will be successfully happen in your environment. And that part, we can assume like 50-50% if we don't know, like, okay, it may happen, may not. But if we have stronger evidence that this will happen or this is happening, we can give it 1. Or if we have like, know that we have CVEs in our environment associated with these TTPs, then also we can give it this one that can increase the value up. Then we will end up with a table like that. We can start, let's say, our initial access, we identify the top TTPs, spear phishing, supply chain, exploit remote service. Those TTPs, again, these are examples, and when you apply it in your environment, you may get something completely different. But in this example, these are the strategies that one of them, the attacker, may use for initial access. Okay? So what are my solutions? You're in a conference like here, you see lots of vendors, you see lots of solutions, then you may have a list of solutions that get introduced to you. It's like, okay, these are my solutions, this is my strategies. Then now how can I calculate the payoff? And that's the next example. We'll go over to apply that methodology. So we recently published a white paper where we try to do the heat map for you just from a high level. We collected data from 51,000 firewalls globally. We found like over 3 billion signatures that was triggered in these 50,000 firewalls. And we looked also at like a 9 million malware sample in wildfire. We were able to take these billion signatures and map them to MITRE TTPs and create this heat map and identify the top TTPs, the medium, and the low. Then we went there, want to say, okay, the probability of this incident to happen, and we want to try to zoom in. So we want to focus on technology. Are we talking about OT, IT? The more zoom in, the more identification you have, the better, or the more precise value you can get. Industry, region, and if you can also add the vulnerability. So let's say in our example here, we were saying, okay, technology is OT, industry is manufacturing, region is global. You can zoom in again in your region, that may change. And then we were able to identify the top TTPs, which was remote exploitation services, supply chain, and spear phishing. And as you can see on the screen, the probability is high, medium, low. Again, I try to make the math simple, so I give 3, 2, 1. If someone want to really be more precise, can be 0.25, 0.50, 0.75. I don't like to play with fractions, so I like simple. And then finally, the probability of this incident successfully to happen. The reason I'm adding 1 here, because we collected data that it is happening. Right? It's signature that's fired based on malicious activities. So I'm not trying to make assumptions here. I'm not trying to see if this is really happening or not. No, that's really happening. Then I take the hacker strategy, the exploit remote service, and say, okay, what solution do I have? Let's say user training, threat intelligence program, update software. Again, every company, every day, every person will have a different solution. This is just an example. You can apply on your organization the way it fits. And when we talked about our solution, this is relevant? Yes. So this is going to be applied. The cost of this solution, I like to make it simple again, 10, 20, 30. And then I calculated the payoff for that specific strategy, which is the exploit remote service. And I can see, okay, I'm looking for the least risk payoff, so the user training here was the one that worked in that example, right? So the more you apply precise numbers, the way that you will get this information. And again, this is a really great way when I go to my leadership, try to justify to them, why do I want to invest in this solution? And the most person likes number, guess who? The CFO, right? And by the way, I don't know if we have any CFO here, but I do know they don't like us. Yes. Because we are cost for them. We are not revenue. And we need to justify for them why you're going to spend all this money, right? So I can go to them and say, like, listen, this is the probability that this has happened, this is the payoff. I can multiply the impact. This is the part where I can give you. This is every organization will have their impact. And you can tell them, like, okay, this may happen, and this is how much money we can lose. Do you want to take this risk or not? We are not the one that telling you what risk to take. We are the one that give you the information. And most of the times when they know the risk, they may lean back and say, like, okay, we'll give you the money. The same thing, I applied this with the second example, which is the supply chain. And I have the same solutions, and I try to say, okay, if this is relevant. User training relevant to this? Yes. Threat intel, we think it's not. And updating software, so maybe. So we say it's relevant. Again, this is very subjective. So in my example, or our example, this is the numbers, but in yours, it may be different. That's why when we say the relevant question is really important, because in this example, when we said it's not relevant, then all the numbers are zeros and I don't have to calculate the numbers. Then the last one, which is the spear phishing, again, user trading, threat intelligence software. The same thing I apply if it's relevant, do the simple math and calculation, and I can get the payoff. And I can end up with a table like this. This is the threats that is impacting our organization. This is the solution. This is the payoff. And then you can go to your CFO or whoever leadership, and you can discuss about if this is applicable solution or which one do you want to invest in more. And as I said in the beginning, this can be also applied in a SOC, for instance, like if you have all these alerts and you have the payoff for false positives, for instance, you want to balance, is it worth the false positive? If this is a threat high risk, and I want to say like, no, if it's a high risk, I have evidence for that, and I will tolerate more false positive than tolerate false negative. That we have applied game theory in this as well before, and it was really good to identify which alert that's worth investment than others. So, as I said, this is a way of thinking, right? And I really would like to introduce this as a way to challenge ourselves to think like, how are we prioritizing our defense? Are we thinking about the threat actors and really the attack that impact our organization? Or we are thinking about compliance, and this is the player we are dealing with here. So for that, I'm going back to my question again and applying game theory, and there people will say, okay, where is the game? So we actually went ahead and created a real game. And some people may give me this face now. So with this exercise or this game, that actually we want to show in practical, like, okay, if you practice, you come and play this game with us, or take this tabletop exercise, you will be introduced to that kind of way of thinking, and you can practice that. I really like, as I said, it's a way of thinking, and the more you practice, the much easier it will get. In our scenario in this game specifically, we choose a sequential game because it's ongoing, dynamic, not static, because always the attacker and defender in a continuous game, they change their strategy, and incomplete information. And this part is really important to keep in mind that even when we detect any threat behavior, it doesn't mean we completed here or we finished or we are done. And the reason is there is always something else that we don't know that happened in the back end. Maybe they left another backdoor that we don't know about. Maybe they have another attack vector that compromised that we don't know. So it's really important to keep thinking about the incomplete information game, not a complete information. And that mistake, I have seen it a lot, where even in a SOC example, we get an alert, it detected, I see the alert get closed, and the investigation or conclusion, the firewall detected this attack, so the firewall did the job, no threat, closed. Well, yes, the firewall detected this attack, or detect this anomaly or suspicious, and it was high confidence and suspicious, but are you sure there's nothing happened before or after? It doesn't mean you know that part, that you have the full information. That's why it's important, like when you know this is an incident happened, even in a signature or in a log, to expand the investigation, see what's happened before and after. And in that exercise, we challenge that way of thinking as well. So basically, the game, you take the role of a CISO, you get exposed to multiple scenarios, you have a budget, you have a time, you have a goal to build the security posture of your organization. And then you make a decision where you balance between your budget and your threat. And of course, you have a very time constraint, which it's reality, right? Like we always have to make a decision very quickly what security we need to buy, what security we need to defend in, and also it's get confused sometimes between operational issues versus security issues versus compliance versus vulnerability. So all of this we incorporated real incident, real life scenarios in that exercise. This is kind of like the top pain point we were identifying, like any CISO that they're going through. We try to incorporate these top 10 points. And with that, if anybody is interested to take this exercise, please reach out to us. This has been a very long effort, so I would like to give credit for all the people who helped to build this game. I have two great people in the team, Ellie Proudler and Crystal West. These two people really worked so hard to make this happen. And also, if you would like to know more about the white paper, we have two great threat researchers in our room there. We have Rick Weibel and Chris Navarrete. They also can give you more information about this white paper as well. And with that, I will open to questions.
Please come up to the microphones to ask your questions.
Okay, I think people are hungry, so we'll take that. Thank you, everyone.